Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome to week number 62 in our Tillis Tells WhatsApp story group. I adopted this story from the translation of Uri Kaplun in a treasury of Hasidic tales. And I retitled it, How to Be in Exile. Near the town of Sanz, there lived a Torah-observant man who owned a tavern and an inn. Now, this is not one of those stories about the Jewish innkeeper and the poets and the debts, etc. He did quite well. He did quite well in the business. He wasn't poor at all. Adarabah, he was somewhat wealthy. And one day into his inn there came a man who dusty from the road. His clothes were tattered and disheveled. And the innkeeper was a very kind-hearted man. He felt bad for this person, and as was his wont in such a situation, he served him for free a full meal. And after the man finished, and it was clear that he was hungry, and after he finished and said Birkat HaMazon, the grace after meals, so the innkeeper offered him a generous sum of money in addition to the meal. To his surprise, the man refused to take it. He thought maybe he was insulted. It wasn't a large enough amount, so he was about to offer him more. When the man said to him, "No, please don't give me any of your money. I probably even have more money than you do. I'm actually a wealthy businessman." The innkeeper was quite startled. He said, "So why do you go around like this in such a disheveled state?" So the man offered to tell him his story. That he lives in Pest, which is today half of Budapest, and he said that he owns several villages with vineyards and dwellings, and he makes a very good living from that. And one day, a large amount of money disappeared from his house. And suspicion fell, that is, his family was suspicious of a maidservant. They had an orphan girl, a young orphan girl, that she had taken the money, or helped somebody to take the money. They told this to the police, and the police arrested her. And their method of investigation was to torture her until she confessed. She refused to confess, proclaiming her innocence. And finally they just let her go, and she came back to my home, he said, but she was in very bad shape from the beatings they gave her. She lay in bed for several days, and then Rahman Salam, unfortunately, she passed away from the severity of the torture. 2 weeks later, the real thief was found. I was devastated, he told the innkeeper. I was responsible for the death of this young innocent girl. I was the one who reported her to the police as a false accusation. And I just couldn't live with myself. I felt so guilty. So I decided to go visit the tzaddik, Rabbi Meir of Premishlan. And I went to his home. I traveled some distance to his home, and there I told him the whole story. He said to me, "There's 3 ways for you to do atonement. You can die an early death, and that will be a rectification, and you will have a place in heaven. Or you can be ill and suffer for 3 years, and that will also be an atonement. Or you can live the life of an exile, a wandering exile." Well, to tell you the truth, I didn't like any of those alternatives. I told the tzaddik I would think about it, and I left to go to my home. However, once there, I didn't contact him, And a few days later, I began to have headaches, and they became more and more frequent and more severe. And then the pain spread to the rest of my body, and I felt terrible, and I couldn't do anything. All I could do was be in bed all day. And the best doctor available came, and he almost gave up on me being able to live through this. And then I realized this must be from the tzaddik. I didn't make a choice, so he chose for me. Death, the simplest alternative. So I had my wife send a telegram to him along with a donation that please he should pray for me, that I should be able to recover, and as soon as I did, I would come to see him and I would accept whatever path he designated for me. So that's what happened. I began to get well, and when I felt strong enough, I went to see the tzaddik again, and Rabbi Meir of Premishlan, and he said to me like this, pain and suffering, it seems that's not for you. You've tried that, and you can't do it. Death, you can always die. Might as well. I think what you should do is live the life of a wandering exile. What does that mean? Let me explain to you. First of all, you have to give me everything of value that you have on your person. Gold, silver, and whatever form of money you have, your aristocratic clothes, everything. You'll leave here with just some old garments. You have to wander wherever you spend the night. You cannot spend the following day there. If anyone offers you can't ask anybody for anything. If anyone offers you food or money, you may take it, but you can't ask, and you can't spend. And wherever you sleep at night, you can't spend a day there. You can't ride in a wagon, or a coach, even if you're offered a ride. You have to go everywhere. You have to go everywhere by foot, and you can't return to your home at all, and you have to do this for 3 years. But Rabbi, what about my business if I can't return to my home? So the Rebbe nodded and said, all right, this I will allow you. At the end of each year, you can return to your hometown or to the outskirts of your hometown and send a message to your wife that she should bring out the ledgers of the business. If you find that the business is losing money, so then I agree that you can stop and return home. But I promise you, this will not happen. The business will maintain itself, will be maintained. So the man told the innkeeper that this is indeed what he was doing, what he did, and he completed 2 years under all of these strict conditions. But then he heard that Rabbi Meir of Premishlan had passed away on the 29th of Iyar in 1850. So he didn't know what to do because he's supposed to report to him after 3 years. Then he heard there was a great tzaddik in the town of Sanz, the Divrei Chaim. So he traveled here in order to ask him his advice what to be done. Oh, the innkeeper was so excited to hear this story and was so curious as to what was going to happen. He offered to accompany the man and show him to the tzaddik's house, Reb Chaim's house. When they got there, before the man could say a word, Reb Chaim said, 2 years is enough. You may stop, but what you should do is on your way home, detour to Premishlan, to the cemetery, go to Rabbi Meir's grave and tell him that Rabbi Chaim of Sanz said that it's enough, the 2 years of faith, that you followed his instructions totally faithfully and with great self-sacrifice.